I feel completely inadequate because I'm doing my absolute best and now I'm getting frustrated and we're disconnected because I'm not expressing love in the way that you like in your core receive love.
Welcome to Startup Spouses, where we help entrepreneurial couples take their relationships from mediocre to mind-blowing. I'm Marie, a relationship and sex coach.
I'm Adam. I'm a business coach. So today I know we're going to kind of like talk about conversation, which sounds kind of funny because talking about conversation, isn't that what we're doing? Anyway, but I think one thing that a lot of couples I think struggle to do, and I know we struggled with this a lot, is to like communicate effectively, understand each other, like really to dig deep. And I mean, make conversation anything but like this unhealthy argument or feeling misaligned. And I think there's a sense that of like going into trying to understand our spouse where it feels like it's almost dangerous territory in some ways.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting how we approach a conversation with, say, like I needed to talk to you about something. And say it's an uncomfortable conversation that I need to have with you.
Right.
So the way I would approach that is I would use a time where we are not heightened or distracted. So I'm not going to have a conversation about something stressful right before bedtime. Let's just say that.
Right.
Or in the beginning of the morning. Like that's not a conversation to be had at that single time.
So what you're saying is between like 10 and 11 a.m. is like ideal for like really difficult conversations?
It depends upon your significant other.
Yeah.
Having the mindset of understanding to a level of how your partner operates
Right.
is important of how you approach a conversation because those conversations can, especially when they're difficult conversations, they can get heated and you get triggered.
Right.
Because I know for certain that you've already have conversations in your head already about difficult conversations and you finished them in your head.
Oh, I never
how
finished
you
them.
You never, you never finished them?
I mean, they're just circling around in my head constantly. But I mean, I think to that point, I mean, like there's these, so you're talking systems, which is great. Cause I think that because you mentioned that like the way we operate, it's like in our communication, this is where we get derailed. If we don't understand how one another operates is what I'm hearing. Chances are our conversation is going to go south. And like we may get into like difficult conversations may not end well is what I'm understanding, right?
Yeah.
And I think to that end, I mean, today what we want to talk about is there are frameworks for how we try to understand each other. And I know a lot of these are like very cliche, like pop culture-y, you know, and things like that. But I think it's really important to talk about them because I think that the reason that they're cliche and pop culture is because they're relevant. Even if they're not all encompassing and don't deal with like super nuance, but they're important. And so what are those frameworks that
I like to use them as tools because I feel like everybody needs a toolbox.
Yeah.
Having a toolbox because you have different tools in it.
Right.
So you don't use like you know what tool to use for what situation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So having this toolbox is great for understanding your spouse. So some of the popular ones that is great to talk about in this situation is so that you know what we're talking about and why it's important maybe to have these conversations, as you said, around this. So we're talking about the 5 love languages,
Yep.
and the Enneagrams.
Yep.
And then the attachment styles.
Yep.
And I've known that these are floating around here. I think I first discovered the 5 love languages back, I'm going to say when my kids were young. So maybe 10 years ago. At maybe a little bit longer, but about 10 years ago, I discovered the five love languages, and then I shared it with you.
Right.
And that one kind of opened my eyes. And so what I just said, it was I shared it with you.
Yeah.
I said, hey, I'm looking at this book, and I think it's important that I know who I am and what I relate to. These
Right.
are some of the love language that I really relate to, and I want to share that with you. And so that started a conversation of you going, that, and I'm grateful because you always you get curious and you want to understand yourself and me. So we started having these discussions around the five love languages.
Yeah, I think that was important to me too, because and the way we're framing this discussion is around these whole ideas. Like, they don't need to change your life, but they are great conversation starters and great behavior shifters. Because before that, it was like you would tell me, I mean, like pretty blatantly, and I'm a pretty dense guy, you know, like I just don't feel like I'm loved. But I mean, like, but I'm like here expressing love in a different way than you like to receive it. Like I'm like lavishing you with praise and like giving you gifts and like but you're like, I just don't feel loved. And I'm like, I feel completely inadequate because I'm doing my absolute best, and now I'm getting frustrated and we're disconnected because I'm not expressing love in the way that you, like, in your core, receive love. And conversely, it was the same with me, because I think that you were trying to express love language in terms of how you like to receive it, and me receiving that, like, that touch first, because your love language is touch.
Yes.
Mine is really words of affirmation.
Yeah.
And so you would kind of come and be like, try to touch me first and things like that. But it would be like, without the affirmation, I was like, kind of like, oh, okay, well, it's just more jarring for me, right? We didn't understand that before we learned about that. And so having learned about that, we could actually start to shift our behaviors a bit. And so how did that go?
I think that was the beginning to the understanding of each other, and that we could have that, even that self-awareness of what that meant to us.
Right.
Because again, we are both getting frustrated. Growing up, we experience love differently.
Yeah.
We experience how people show us love, how they don't show us love, so that we are kind of adjusting ourselves as we become young adults.
So do those love languages, do they get kind of adapted or imprinted or indoctrinated or whatever when we're young, like when we experience or don't experience something when we're young?
That's a good question.
Yeah. In other words, I mean, like, is it because we didn't receive words of affirmation that love affirmation is something we crave? Is it the reverse?
Well, then let me ask you that question. Do you feel that love language was important to you?
Oh, words of affirmation?
Yeah, the words of affirmation was important to you.
I think growing up, yes.
Did you not get that?
I think that there were times when I did, and there were times when I didn't. I mean, so I was kind of a lonely kid growing up until high school. I didn't have a lot of friends, and so I didn't get a lot of affirmation around what I was doing. But I discovered when I was so like, yeah, affirmation wasn't something I received a lot of. But I found that, like, when I got to high school and I started achieving things like becoming a great musician, people, like, I would get that praise, and it would, like, then it would hit me like, oh, and then so I became an achiever, right? And through achieving, that's how I experienced love. And so I became, like, conditioned, I think, to believe that, like, okay, so in order to receive love, I need to achieve things, because then I get the affirmation in the way that, like, in the words of affirmation of, like, oh, you did a great job, all this kind of stuff. So, yay, become an achiever. And that kind of, you know, for good or ill, that became, like, what I did, right? And I think maybe that's a demonstration that a lot of times, sometimes these love languages get established for what it is now, like however we want to receive them. Maybe a lot of times they're established out of maybe an unhealthy dynamic, or maybe the attempts to receive that type of love language is not always healthy. I can imagine with touch, there's probably that element too, of like you might try to get touch in a way that may not be as healthy. But am I right about that?
Well, it's interesting that we're starting to talk about, having these conversations around it, because about the fact that is it something that started as a child? Because then, like, thinking about it, both me and my sister, my younger sister, our love language is touch.
Yeah.
And not feeling it from our parents, or not being felt that we were held as much, or that they're ashamed for any sort of touch. I don't remember enjoying hugs that much when I was, I get it. I'm a teenager, but so I sought it in boyfriends too, that it really felt good because I felt that I got what I didn't receive as a child.
Yeah.
So that was the way that I felt loved. So receiving love as well too.
Yeah.
But the importance about that, it was this great start that me and you were having these conversations around it, that we had these points of reference to understand ourselves and communicate that with one another too.
Right.
So it was great that we started doing that. And it's like, oh, so I'm not going to go out and buy a lot of gifts because that's not what he wants. Right. I'm going to compliment him. I'm going to praise him. I'm going to say things that make him feel good. And then, like, he's going to feel loved in that sort of sense. Right. So when I started doing that sort of thing, when I started changing my behavior to telling you words of affirmation, how did that feel?
I mean, great. I felt more aligned.
Yeah.
Like I felt more understood.
Yeah.
And I think for a long time, when I didn't know how to convey this before we knew about this stuff, but I think my primary disconnection from you that I felt when we were really struggling was like, I feel like I'm not being understood. And I think I was frustrated because I didn't know how to convey why I didn't feel understood. And because I didn't know that I was craving words of affirmation. I was just trying to strive to achieve, but I also felt ignored, and so I couldn't really put it into words until I discovered that, And I think that was helpful to have this frame of what I needed, what I appreciated. And I think there's 5 love languages, right? Yeah. So we've talked about 2 of them. We've had the words of affirmation, touch. We have acts of service. What are the other ones? There's 2 others. It's acts of service, gifts, and then
quality time.
Quality time. Yeah. So those are the 5 love languages, and I just want to say thank you for not being gifts, because I'm a terrible gift giver.
I think we knew that about each other. Yeah. Or maybe, you know what? If I was, you would probably adjust yourself and be like, oh, I wonder what she would want.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to buy me like Ferraris and like all that kind of stuff, I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll be gifts. Yeah, maybe I'll be gifts. But yeah.
That's funny you say that, because our kids asked me, or my daughter asked me the other day, if I had uber amount of money, what car would I get? And I said, somebody who drives me everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, that is an uber amount of money, right?
Oh, my goodness.
Nice. See, you're telling puns without even knowing it.
Oh, my goodness.
Puns are also my love languages, so there's 6. Anyway.
Okay, so even though we had that, 5 love languages.
Yep.
You think our marriage was running smoothly after that? Like, it was just like, we were like all like in sync with each other, and we could go on our merry way.
Yeah, I think you could I could really hurt you and feel like oh, how we can get in a huge argument or something like that. All I would have to do is just touch your hair. and then everything's
that-
okay.
yes,
Everything's okay.
that would-
Right? Did that work? No, I don't think it worked completely, right? But there were other. So let's kind of dive into the other things then.
Okay.
Because we had attachment styles as well, which is another kind of way that we can kind of understand where we're at and understand maybe where we're healthy and unhealthy in an attachment style. So so say more.
Okay. So there are 4 attachment styles. There is secure attachment, which we're all striving for.
So we want to be secure in our
Yes.
attachment.
Yeah, we want to be secure in our attachment. There's avoidant, meaning
Hang on, I gotta take it.
that that you kind of are checked out, not really you when things come big, like it feels heavy to you and you want to run. So I think
So if conversation gets kind of scary, what I'm hearing in that is that you want to avoid those kind of conversations or avoid those situations altogether.
yeah, or you want to, like, if it gets more serious, these are the people who don't very much last in a relationship too.
So
That they're done.
is it safe to say that in an avoidant attachment scenario, like that you are kind of favoring this kind of artificial harmony to avoid those kinds of dark force? Like, no, everything's okay. I don't want to go into any conflict whatsoever. So if that's the case, I won't show up. Is that kind of what that avoidant attachment is?
You could, yeah, that's part of it.
Yeah.
Then there's also the when somebody has strong feelings towards you, you're kind of like, oh,
I see. Yeah.
pull back too. It's like, I can't. That's too much.
Got
Like
it.
that's where people get that. Oh, like that's too much for me, and then that's where the anxious attachment like shows up because it seems to be anxious and avoidant, like kind of are back and forth with each other because the anxious attachment is going to hold on as much as possible.
So it's like being needy, kind of feeling needy.
Yeah,
Or,
well, that's what an avoidant attachment would call it.
oh yeah.
Is
Okay.
calling it needy,
Yeah.
meaning that they need to be affirmed that you're going to be there and you're not leaving, that they're safe.
It's interesting that you're saying kind of that like anxious attachment style. And then you just said they need that affirmation, which is one of the love languages. So is there an unhealthy kind of dynamic around like how we experience love and maybe that anxious attachment? I guess what I'm asking is that within this dynamic of attachment styles, is that where kind of like the unhealthy expression of love languages might come into play?
It could be. I think it's great that we're having conversations about this because I'm nowhere near an expert in any of these, all 3 of these. But having these conversations of like, and getting curious of like, how does that show up? That's
Right.
interesting how that shows up.
Right.
Like, should we dive deeper into that? Like, how does that relate to us in our relationship? So, so like.
So it's kind of like a self-awareness.
Yes.
And it's like, and then that can spark a conversation if you can at least kind of like remove yourself from that and like observe it in some ways. And then there was a 4th attachment style, which was disorganized attachment,
disorganized.
right?
Yeah.
So
Where that the caregiver gave inconsistent love and attention.
I see.
So it was very inconsistent. So it could be somebody who maybe had some sort of personality disorder, maybe a caregiver who was under extreme amount of stress.
Right.
It could have gone through some sort of trauma that the caregivers had been, and that was. So it was inconsistent. So the child's like, I don't know what to do in order to get love from this caretaker because it's it's like here or there or like, so they're kind of like almost that paralyzed feeling.
Yeah.
And so you just like throw everything at like at the
Like the spaghetti, all the spaghetti at the wall kind of
yeah,
thing.
it will.
Yeah.
Let's see what sticks.
Right.
That makes sense. But it can show up in different ways.
Right.
I mean, one minute you could be avoidant. One minute you could be anxious, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think about how it's shown up like for us.
Yes.
Because, and this may be true for a lot of entrepreneurial couples who are building a business together, right? Mm-hmm. It may be easy to avoid kind of the relationship stuff if that's not going as well, and lean into the business stuff, if the partnerships. And now you're more business partners than romantic partners. Mm-hmm. But that's somehow kind of like an acceptable dynamic for you because you don't want to address the relationship stuff. And that's the intimacy that isn't there. But ultimately, and then no matter how much you're focusing in the business, the relationship suffering is going to cause the business to suffer at some point. So being aware of that and understanding those dynamics, it feels like this gets into that 3 circles model that we have and that we talk about, which is the business, the relationship, and the individual. Yeah. Knowing those operating systems for all 3 and how your attachment style might be affecting that dynamic is important, I think, to being able to work through some of that conflict.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And these are no way set in stone. Right. You can work through these. You can be avoidant and come towards like, you can start feeling those needing to pull back, and you'd be like, I'm safe. I'm okay. Mm-hmm. I can be present in this situation. I can hold space for this person, especially if you know their attachment style too.
Yeah. So what does it look like to have a secure attachment? Is that, you said that's what we're all striving for. So what would that look like?
I feel a lot of it has to do with holding space for another person and their feelings.
So not attaching emotions, not internalizing somebody else's emotions when you're kind of going through a conversation.
Consider the situation with like sex, and you're asking for what you want in the bedroom. Right. A secure attachment would be like, oh, that sounds like, let's say they want to use a toy in the bedroom. Mm-hmm. And I say that to you, like, this would be so much helpful. And a secure attachment would be like, that's great. I'm glad that you found something that works for you. I'm grateful for that, actually. That I actually enjoy that sort of stuff. And it's not like, what would be an anxious?
Yeah. Oh my God. Am I going to be replaced?
Yeah.
Like, are you trying to? Am I not good enough?
Yes.
Am I not this? Like, yeah. And I could definitely see that. I mean, so I see like it's not just the attachment is secure, but it's almost security in yourself, like individual security. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of the anxious or maybe the other attachment styles are insecure, like are like an expression of insecurity. Yeah. That seems to make sense, because I also feel like with secure attachment, there's also a healthy expression of boundaries. Yes. Like the ability to be separate and individual. Mm-hmm. But also understand that the relationship can be strong while you're separate. Yes. And instead of like having to like kind of be like, oh, are we okay? Are we okay? And like constantly be like with each other, right? And I mean, especially when you're building a business together, that separate time to focus on that individual circle is going to be important. To know that you're secure in yourself, because when you're secure in yourself, you can be secure in your relationship. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, a lot of, I don't know why the dynamic is anxious and avoidant together, and that seems to stay like maybe it's the polar opposite of each other, but it does show up. Yeah. In situations where the avoidant is like, gosh, they're so needy, or it's too much, or you start using those words and pulling back even more, and then the anxious is like getting stressed because they're pulling back, and they know they're pulling back, so they're pushing in forward more too. So and then it's just realizing, take a deep breath. We're both okay. I have feelings around this. I have feelings around this. Yeah. And we share them and understand each other. Right. So it's coming into a place where this is something we learned in the past. These are old tools that didn't work for us.
Yeah.
And the fact that we can use new tools to help ourselves become secure in our attachment styles.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I like the ideas that these are tools. I mean, really just self-awareness ideas too.
Yeah.
Because the more aware we become, again, these aren't, there's no reason to think of these as gospel, like
No.
for anything, because things change. It's like, yeah, my love language is words of affirmation, but does that mean that everything that I love comes from an affirmation? No, I love touch too.
yeah.
Sometimes I like gifts, you know,
Yeah.
and I like the acts of service. It just means like these are primary things, like, and if they're if certain things are absent, like if I don't get gifts, it's like, okay, that's, you know, that's fine. But if I don't need gifts, like it's lovely. But I feel like, yeah, I need words of affirmation. I need touch, you know, I need those things. And so just knowing yourself in that sort of way, and the same with the attachment styles. It sounds like we kind of ping pong back and forth between a lot of these, and it's just never set in stone. Like my attachment style is this, and that's the end of it. It's like, no, I mean, I think we live in the world of being human and imperfect, and we should embrace that. And I think just that self-awareness gives room to grow and improve and connect at a deeper level. And yeah, so I think that's neat about the attachment styles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a wonderful tool and realization of how you operate and who you are and how your partner operates and
Yeah.
how to have conversations
So
in appropriate ways.
yeah, absolutely. So then the conversation would go to the third tool that's very popular out there,
Yeah.
that I think can also help to get some insight into, you know, who you are and how you operate within the operating system of self.
Yeah, you brought this one to me actually.
Right. And this was brought to me by my coach, Kirk Wyman, who initially had me go through this exercise, and it is the Enneagram.
Yeah.
And now the Enneagram is like everywhere, a reticular activating
It's
system.
been around forever,
Well, of
though.
course, it's been
But
around
it's
for
became
thousands
popular.
of years, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think that there's power in it, but I think it's seen like an influx of like popularity recently, and I think so. I learned about it a few years ago. I was my business coach asked me to read a book by Richard Rohr, who is a Franciscan monk who writes. I think he's a monk. He's a Franciscan something, but he writes a lot of books. He wrote something about the Enneagram, and my coach just said, I don't want you to go take any tests. I just want you to read this book, which was a thick volume, and I'm not a great reader, but I read it anyway. He said, I want you to tell me which of these numbers, 1 through 9, breaks your heart.
Ooh.
And the reason it's going to break your heart is because that's the number that you are.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really profound, because then I went through it, and I discovered at the time that I thought I was a 1, which is more on the perfectionist side.
Yeah.
Like the idea of I'm perfectionist. I'm always striving for that perfection ideal, and that is kind of the bit of an unhealthy idea. But I then later discovered that I was more of a 3, which is more along the lines of, I think, that achiever dynamic, right?
Yes.
Where do you land?
I'm in 2.
Yeah.
The people pleaser, which
Right.
makes a lot of sense
Yeah,
to me.
it's very heart centered.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, when you're in a healthy 3, and I think there's another dynamic of the Enneagram that is interesting. I think what makes it interesting is there's so much nuance to it. You can read about, like, I mean, there's an entire freaking 500-page book written by Richard Rohr that you can all read. But I think there's lots of books written on it, and so to go into detail in 10 minutes, I mean, just broadly speaking, there's unhealthy ways in which we experience our behaviors in our number, and then healthy ways in which we can express ourselves, right? And there's a certain way and directions we go to, I guess, become healthy and unhealthy. Like if we're in a 1, say, like if if you're kind of living into that unhealthy one, so to speak, there's like this element of like leaning into a 7, which is the more playful style and all of that is healthy. And I know I'm not explaining that completely clearly.
Yeah.
Again, this is not meant to be like a professional expression of what the Enneagram is and all that kind of stuff. This is meant to be like, hey, conversation starter on like what I'm resonating with personality wise, so we can understand each other better.
Yeah, exactly.
And so when I discovered that you were a 2, it was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense, because Marie is very a feeling first kind of person. And that helps me to understand you more in like terms of like what can help, what can be a healthy expression for you.
Yes.
And same with me. It's like, oh, Adam is like again an achiever kind of person, right? And yeah, so kind of understanding that.
Yeah. And how close we are to each other in it. We overlap each other too.
Yeah,
on
to an
the
extent.
sides. Yeah, to the sides.
Though I'm kind of a wing 4, I think, as opposed to, because you have like these wings that like go to one
but
side.
isn't it both sides though? I don't remember though.
I mean, from what I understand, I think you kind of tend to wing over to one side.
To one side than the other.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, and totally correct us if
I'm
we're wrong.
not a perfectionist.
Be nice in the comments, though. I mean, correct us if we're wrong, but be nice in the comments, because words of affirmation. But yeah, I think but yeah, I think because you might wing over to 3 or 1 or what have you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so I think so there's different numbers, and learning to understand that a little bit more is helpful. Like when I was working in our company, our CFO was a very unhealthy 8. And if you know what 8s are very combative. I mean, they're very like conflict oriented. They're very like matter of fact in terms of like, it's zero sum kind of like, that kind of and very high conflict, especially when they're unhealthy. It's just like this unhealthy ego driven conflict, and I just did not do really well with that. So it's hard for me to work with like unhealthy 8s, whereas my business coach will tell you that like, yeah, he's an 8 too, but he's a very healthy 8. And I actually like that, because he's like, hey, I'm going to be completely straightforward with you. I'm going to do it in a kind way, but I'm not going to lie to you. And I know that he's being honest. I know he's being truthful, and it's helpful that way. So yeah. So there's healthy ways of expressing that Enneagram and unhealthy. But ultimately it's like, it's just a really great way to understand each other and where we're coming from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that all 3 of these frameworks have been a great extension to understand ourselves and each other, and how to communicate better with each other and have great conversations around it.
Yeah, yeah, and there's certainly other tools out there.
Exactly.
I mean, behavioral models that kind of go the same direction, Myers-Briggs or DISC or Colby. I mean, those are very like, hey, you're getting in the weeds a little bit. I mean, I don't know if you want to do it, but yeah, it's like.
Yeah, but I think that if we touch on the ones that most people understand, it will help us to understand each other and be accessible, because there's a lot of information out there on all 3 of these too.
Right.
And not using it as defining yourself. It's used as it's like trying on outfits to see what fits you. Like, that doesn't really kind of describe me. I'd feel more comfortable over here. Or like, but it just opens your mind up to how who you are and what you want.
Right.
And how to communicate that to your spouse.
Yeah.
Or your significant other, or your partner, for that matter. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I think to another part of these 3 in particular, which I like about these, is these are really safe ways to kind of learn more about each other and to actually express your wants, desires, and needs. Very safe. It's not like you have to go in and say, here's my deepest, darkest desire, like and fantasy. And like, I know that that's like a big leap, but what this does is it starts to kind of grease the wheels, so to speak, of having those kinds of conversations down the line.
Yeah.
Because you can't, I know if you haven't gone down that path of like really going in deep into those kinds of really difficult or really challenging, like super deep desire conversations, then I mean, like, starting here, it's just like, hey, this is a very simple and safe way to express what I want, how I operate, and how we might be able to kind of align around that. When you say that I'm a touch person, it's like, okay, well, I can focus on providing you more touch.
Yes.
Or vice versa with affirmations. So that's like a starting point. Once you develop the trust in using these tools, then you can go deeper into things like, hey, let's start talking about fantasies and desires and things that might like go deeper and get you closer to that 100% absolute openness and honesty that you want in your relationship.
Yeah, exactly. Because if we can't have these, first of all, surface these needs up front, then it's kind of more difficult to get even more vulnerable and go down that path. Because if we don't see our attachment styles first, and then talking about core desires or the yes, no, maybe lists that Emily Morris has, then it's kind of difficult to go backwards too,
right.
because you might get triggered a lot easier. I mean, like, where is this coming from? And have a lot of judgment
Right.
with each other, and that's dangerous territory. So
Yeah.
So that's why we emphasize these three, because it's kind of like a starter.
Yeah.
I like how you said that, though.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So great starting point to get to understand each other more and understand yourself a little bit better, so you can strengthen those two circles of relationship and individual. And ultimately that will strengthen your partnership and business and really help you to zero in on your operating systems for that in business. And then from there, you can take that to the next level. Anything else that anything else you can think of with regard to these kinds of tools that we can use to better understand our operating systems?
I mean, just if you're interested, look them up, start having those conversations with your spouse. Even, I mean, you can relate this to your kids too. So, or anybody in your business too, of understanding them too.
Yeah.
So,
do you know where you can have these conversations? In a weekly meeting.
Yes. A very weekly meeting. That's a great opportunity to have those. And you know what?
What?
We also have a workbook on that.
We
too.
do?
We do.
Wow.
We can have those conversations in our weekly meetings that we have, that you can get on our website.
You know what's great about that too?
What?
It only takes 20 minutes.
What?
20
Only
minutes.
20 minutes? 20 minutes a
20
day?
minutes a week? A week.
Week? That's even
Not even
better.
a day. Yeah, you don't even spend. But you can go longer if you want to,
we
right?
can.
Yes. Yeah. So, all seriousness though, we do have a workbook that can help to guide you along the path of developing your own weekly meeting rhythm, where you can start to ask these questions about love languages, attachment styles, and Enneagrams, or anything else that you want to discuss, leading you down the path of absolute openness and honesty and transparency in your relationship that strengthens the relationship that fuels everything else in your life, including your business.
Yes.
So all it takes is 20 minutes a week. You can download that. We'll include it in the show notes here. Hopefully it's there by the time this episode drops. If it's not, it will be there soon. But we'll get that out to you. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. If you enjoy the show, please like it and subscribe. It helps us to get the word out to entrepreneurial couples who are trying to build great businesses and great lives together, and have a great sex life as well. So this is Startup Spouses. We really appreciate you joining us today, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.